What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. Right now, I feel like $100,000.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs like the founders of P90X, Quest Nutrition, and many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Our sponsor today is Rise25.com, which helps service professionals, doctors, lawyers, coaches, accountants, stop just trading time for dollars and shift from one-to-one client work to one-to-many. Rise25 is an exclusive accountability and group coaching program for professional service entrepreneurs who want to scale up and stop just trading time for dollars. It was founded by my business partner, John Corcoran, and myself, where we bring together like-minded entrepreneurs from different client-serving backgrounds. Go to rise25.com. There's one thing on there you should check out. Download your free dream product ladder. It's actually planning out your product ladder, your business on one sheet of paper. So check it out. And big thanks to Matt Monroe, who's a rock star photographer, and he's a person who's covered 4 of our retreats at Rise 25 because he introduced me to Ben. And I'm excited to introduce you to Ben. Ben Jacobsen founded Jacobsen Salt in 2011. And they are the first company to harvest salt in the Pacific Northwest since, get out your history books, since Lewis and Clark. The company has transformed from a local small business to a nationally recognized brand as one of America's leading premium salt makers and can be found in such places as William-Sonoma, Whole Foods, and many more. And Ben, I think we'd agree there's humble beginnings there where you start off taking 5-gallon buckets in your Subaru to hauling 10,000 pounds of salt water each week in your U-Haul and staying up 72 hours at a time per batch. So, Ben, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeremy, for sure.
So take me back to those 72 hours straight. That sounds like a Navy SEAL hell week. What was it like? What were you doing in those 72 hours?
It was, the early days of our small business was quite difficult and just, physically strenuous in addition to just kind of the running the business aspect of it. Simply because I was hauling salt water, seawater from Netarts from the Oregon coast to Portland, Oregon, and then start making salt. But we're like many other small businesses that just start out. You're on all the time, and I don't think we're necessarily that different from any other small startup. But in this case, we just happen to have the need to move, tens of thousands of pounds of seawater.
So I know that you studied in Denmark and Norway, right? And that's kind of where you discovered salt. But you were a hobby salt maker?
Yeah, I discovered great finishing salt when I lived in Denmark, and then I moved to Norway for a job. And I wasn't making salt there at the time, but I was. But I definitely kind of fell in love with it and realized that the significance of using great salt in very simple food. And to me, that was just it was transformative, and it was, don't want to sound strange, but it was life-changing in a way. And I certainly never would have expected myself to have a salt company 8 years ago. And now we're 6 years old, and I spent 2.5 years figuring out how to make good salt when I moved back to the U.S. So, yeah, it's definitely changed my life.
Yeah. So I want to get into that journey of the 5-gallon buckets to kind of what you're set up now, but talk a little bit, because you call yourself a mediocre cook. And so how you can, take great salt and make food, simple food, great. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the unexpected uses that you've used it for and other people?
I mean, that's the power of using great salt and great ingredients in simple cooking. This morning, I cooked a piece of toast, and I spread some hummus on it, and a little bit of our habanero salt. And it was a great start to the day. And I ate the toast on my way to work here this morning in the car. But it can be as simple as that, to sprinkling salt on a cucumber that you grew in your garden and sliced up, and it's just delicious. It doesn't have to be complicated or fancy. That said, we work with some of the best chefs in the country, and their use of our salt, inspires me every day. But I guess my point in saying all of that is that I don't profess to be a great cook. I know that the power of using really simple ingredients can elevate very simple food.
So how do you come up with the different flavors?
That's probably one of the most fun aspects of the job. Is it's really just kind of trial and error and really what sounds good. A couple of months, or I guess about a year and a half ago now, I became kind of fascinated with black garlic, and
I was gonna say, after we get off this, I'm purchasing one of those. So
thank you.
The infused black garlic salt looks to me like cooking, pastas and things like that, and I am looking forward to getting that.
Totally, yeah. I'm just naturally a curious person and like kind of tinkering with stuff and wanted to figure out how to make black garlic. It's not that hard with YouTube videos and what have you, and we did, and then we made the black garlic and then we dried it out.
So you actually made the black garlic? Yeah,
we fermented garlic and then dried it out in our dehydrator and then blended it into our salt. And our black garlic salt is now super popular, and people that have probably never come into contact with just whole fermented black garlic or black garlic paste are trying our black garlic salt. And it's neat because it's just a fun thing to do, and it's not it's not as if it's a super laborious process for us. And even if it was, it's just a fun thing to experiment with.
Yeah. So where have these come from? Because obviously that came, besides yourself, like, oh, this sounds good to me, customer requests, chef requests, talk about some of the origins. So you have the garlic salt, you have black garlic salt, you have black pepper salt, ghost chili salt. What is the most interesting story origin from one of these, the salts currently? So the Pinot Noir salt.
Oh yeah. So John Groshaw, of Groshaw Cellars is a friend of mine, and John let me use some of his wine totes and to haul seawater in, and then help me use the forklift that he had for his winery. And so we just wanted to figure out a way to work together. And so at first we started. I asked him if I could use an old barrel of his, and we aged salt in the barrel. And it didn't do a whole lot, honestly. We aged it for a couple of months, and so we tried to figure out other ways to work together. And so we then decided to try and evaporate wine with in the salt and make a wine salt essentially. And we did, and it's a beautiful kind of pink purplish color, and uses great Oregon Pinot Noir and from John Groshaw, and it's a really nice salt to use on anything you'd have a glass of red wine with. So steak, pizza, pasta. Somebody last night that posted on Instagram that they made chocolate cookies with our Pinot Noir salt, and
really,
wow. It looks incredible. I wish I could have one.
It's like one fun science experiment. What are the most popular ones out of all of them?
Right now, our black garlic salt is popular. Our black pepper salt, because nothing goes better with salt than pepper. Obviously, it's super versatile. Our garlic salt, I feel like what I want to do is make good salt approachable to everybody in America. And one of the ways we tried to do that was, I feel like most kids in America grow up with a jar of garlic salt in their pantry. It's pretty universal, it seems like. So what we wanted to do was take the best salt on the planet that we think we make and try and find great garlic powder. And so we tested 27 different garlic powders, and finally settled on an organic one from this place in Eugene, Oregon. And they make and they have exceptional garlic powder. And so we blend the garlic powder in with our salt, and you just end up with kind of the best of both worlds, just a really killer garlic salt. And that's just fun to me. It's just kind of like new riffs on old classics.
I love that. Yeah, it's making me hungry. So for you, I want to talk about early on, right? So you have this idea. I mean, was it at the point when you were just starting off taking 5-gallon buckets, was that just as a hobby, or was that you decided you wanted to make a business of it?
Early on, it was a hobby, and that was part of my process to try and figure out how to make great salts, and spent 2.5 years doing it. And it literally was just a hobby. Every time I'd go out to the coast camping or crabbing or whatever, I'd pull back. I'd bring back 5 gallons of seawater and just kind of iterate and tinker, and finally figured out a process after that 2.5 years. Once I did, I tested water from 25 different spots, from southern coast of Oregon in Gold Beach, Oregon, to Nia Bay in Washington State, and made salt from all of those sources of water. And Netarts Bay, where we are now, was far and away the best. And so soon after that, it became a business. I went to a local grocery store called New Seasons. It's like a local Whole Foods. And the buyer tasted it and said he said, how much is it, and how soon can I place the order? And at that point I said, oh shit, I better start a business, because I hadn't started a business yet. And then I did, and the rest is water under the bridge.
How much did they want to buy for the first order?
Let's see here. They wanted to buy, I think it was 30 pounds, because they had 10 stores at the time. I think they have 15 or 16 stores now, but so they've grown quite a bit. But I think it was 30 pounds at the time, and before that, I probably made 3 to 4 pounds at the time. So significant
like
upgrade.
10 times your output. So how do you do that? How do you go from producing, okay, I can do 3 pounds to, and that's only one order. When they reorder and you get other sales, that's a different story.
Exactly. Yeah. It was really just a kind of trial by fire, honestly, and just trying to figure out my way, how to do it as quickly as I could. And making sure that, quality was kept up the whole way. And really the most challenging parts about my job and my job early on, and then our job collectively going forward, is, figuring out the right equipment for the job. Salt making equipment doesn't exist, and so anything anything that we have is custom fabricated, custom designed, and custom made, and meaning we have to select the right materials and everything else, because salt is naturally super corrosive and caustic to everything it touches. So it doesn't matter if you have the highest grade stainless steel, it's still going to rust and corrode. So you have to make your material decisions very carefully. And as a result, that's been definitely tricky to figure out, because I don't have an engineering or, any sort of engineering background.
So take me through, in the beginning, when you started, this is a business now, you were still at that point hauling it in a U-Haul, right?
Yeah. Rented U-Haul trucks.
How were you actually collecting it and putting it in a U-Haul, and what were you bringing it into? What did it look like at that time?
I was collecting it in water containers that you get for camping, those 5-gallon jugs, and hauling 2 of those, and would, sorry, 1 second, it's downstairs. I would haul two of those water jugs, and fill up the wine tote, 275-gallon wine tote. And each one of those wine totes would take about 4.5 hours to fill up, which is absurd, but just the part of the process. Finally figured out that I could potentially use a pump. I bought a pump, really cheap pump from Harbor Freight, and it broke after 45 minutes of use, but I got like the first wine tote half full. So I continued just hand bucketing it, and did that for close to 6 months, 2 to 3 times a week. And then finally, met a guy who has an oyster hatchery, and on Netarts Bay, and pulled up sweaty one afternoon, asking him if I could randomly, if he pumped seawater in. And that's a strange question, I realized, but ended up he pumps about 130,000 gallons a day. And so, I was able to just build a relationship with him over time, and finally started to get seawater from him, and yeah.
That's wild. So I know you have some salt within your vicinity there. Could you show us? Because if you look at it online, it's almost like it looks like it's like a snowflake or something, right? I mean,
yeah. We make 3 primary types of salt. It's all made in the same process, but we make a pure kosher salt. So that's a very fine grain sea salt, very fine flake sea salt. It's great for cooking, brining, baking, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where texture of the salt doesn't necessarily matter. We make a coarse grinding salt that you put in a simple salt grinder, and then we make our pure flake salt. And our pure flake salt comes in 4-ounce bags, and then in these chef jars. And these chef jars are the jars that the chefs that we work with use. They're obviously working in much higher volumes and sending out hundreds of plates a night. And so this salt is some particularly large flake, but
wow.
This is an example of some of the salts that we make.
That's wild.
I don't know if you can see that.
Holy cow.
But it's super delicate, clean and briny. You can eat it on its own, and it's just delicious. And so the reason that our salt tastes so clean and briny is a very kind of deliberate, natural part of our process. So it's not, it doesn't occur just by chance. So it's just a fun way to use great salt.
Yeah, this is handcrafted, literally, right? You shovel it into. I was watching the video. You shovel it into a bin, and it has these huge flakes. Mm-hmm. How long does it take from when you pump the seawater in to actually getting that in the jar?
It takes about 2.5 weeks, ballpark, from raw seawater to dry flake of salt like this.
Yeah.
It's a process that technically could be sped up, but we wouldn't. The end result wouldn't be these beautiful flakes.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, because it's got to sit there, right, in almost like a water bath, and just for how long? That part of the process takes 3 to 4 days or so. So it's a waiting game.
Yeah, it's a waiting game. But if you make great wine, it takes time, and if you make even great beer, it takes time. So,
what was a milestone for you?
Yeah,
and what was a milestone for you in the business wise? So now, you've started to perfect the process, and now you have to sell it. What's a big milestone from that standpoint, from the selling standpoint?
I think getting our sales to the point where we could support a small team. And for me, a personal milestone was being able to afford health insurance and pay for health insurance for all of our employees. And that came after our first William-Sonoma order. And it was definitely a turning point, just kind of scale wise, in the sense that, we had enough volume kind of happening on a recurring order basis, that it allowed us just to get to the next level and be able to, free up a little bit of earnings for things like, fundamental human rights, health insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
How did they hear about you?
I had approached them probably for 1.5 years, and worked with their local store, and their local store was sending our samples to their, corporate headquarters in San Francisco, and finally got in touch with the buyer. They went through a couple of some buyer transition, and they have a new head of food. His name is Neil Lick, and I met him at Fancy Food Show in New York. I don't know, 4 years ago or something, 5 years ago, and it took, again, after we met, probably another 6 to 12 months for us to actually, send an order to them. But it was a great relationship, and it's, they're huge supporters of what we do now, which I'm really thankful for them.
Yeah. So Ben, I know this comes with sacrifices, building up this company. In the beginning you were staying up for days at a time to do this. What are some of the sacrifices you've made to to make this business work?
I mean, I've just, personal relationship sacrifices. I went for close to 2.5 years without getting paid, or getting basically just taking money from the company when I had to have it. And actually, it's more than 2.5 years. It's closer to 3 years. But and then just just kind of the sacrifices of work and not being able to go ride your bike in the middle of the day for 4 hours is I miss that for sure. And that's I love cycling and I love running and exercise, and I certainly get it in now, but it's not the way it used to be for sure. But that's okay.
So how many people does it take to harvest, get all the salt, and create the salt now?
We have 12 employees, 12 full-time employees at our facility on the coast, I believe it is, and it might actually even be 13 now. We just did an org chart and I used to count, but 12 full-time employees that are super dedicated, and I think our crew out there, I'm proud of them, and they're kind of the unsung heroes because nobody actually, or very few people actually meets the people who make the salt, and I'm just super proud of what they do every day. And it's not, they're out there on the edge of the world on the coast, and it can be a little bit lonely, and it's beautiful, and it's just a very special place to be able to spend part of your life.
After you, who were the first hires? What did you hire for?
After me, let's see here.
I can't do this by myself anymore. I need someone.
Yeah, I hired 2 people who helped make salt over the when I needed sleep.
Which is every day, possibly. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and then and so it was 2 salt makers, and then I remember I hired Molly. And Molly started out doing part-time deliveries for us because I really needed to be able to take a couple of days off, and I also wanted to be able to deliver to our customers rather than once or twice a week as soon as they needed it. So within a couple of hours, because I believe that our customers are the ones that are the only reason that we're here, and so I want to put them first always. And so anyway, we hired Molly. And Molly's been with us, close to 3.5, 4 years, and she's awesome. Now she is our distribution manager and kind of plays puppet master between supply chain and our customers to make sure we product and goods are flowing in the right direction at all times, and there are no outages.
I mean, when you were figuring, since not many people or no one's really doing it like this, how did you figure out the process? Did you go to Denmark or Norway, or how did you figure all of it out?
The process of making salt?
Yeah.
It was just trial and error. It was, I knew it was a reduction of seawater in some capacity, and obviously there are infinite ways you can do that. And so let's figure out the best way and the way that makes our salt super clean and briny with no bitter aftertaste, and this kind of brilliant translucent white, and then and really easy to crumble in your fingertips if you want to.
Talk about the byproducts, because you have a number of byproducts that come off from producing the salt.
Yeah, we have effectively 3 byproducts right now. The first is our calcium and magnesium, and that essentially is if you spent time like on a rock wall or weightlifting or whatever, it's chalk, and it's so right now we're working with a couple of chicken farmers and flower farmers in Tillamook County to see if that calcium and mineral might be a good soil or fertilizer amendment for chicken eggs and then for soil. And the second one is steam, of course. And right now we've got a couple of ideas that we're working on around that. And then the third one is it's a magnesium Epsom salt. It's a bittern. So what's left over in the salt pans after the end of at the end of when all the salt is made is this bitter, and it's very bitter. You wouldn't want to eat it, but it's primarily a magnesium Epsom salt. So we take that and we dry it out, and that's a bath salt, effectively. So
it's healthy for your muscles and everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just selling that in very limited amounts right now. We're sitting on quite a bit of it, and we're just kind of waiting to get the packaging together before we put it out into the market.
That's so interesting because the byproducts are, their uses for those byproducts. Totally.
Yeah, we have with those three byproducts we have no waste. So that's pretty fun.
That's a good tagline. Yeah.
Totally. It's pretty fun for sure.
So the steam, you could still do something with the steam, you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
Working on that.
That's amazing. And so for you, there's the logistics of making the product and there's the logistics of selling the product. What are some of the ways you manage the logistics of selling? Are certain softwares you use or programs or for inventory and everything else? What do you use for the actual selling?
Right now we use a combination of shared Google spreadsheets, which are pretty great. And we use a lot of those, and shared Google Docs to Dropbox to share, assets and images and that sort of thing. And now we just implemented Salesforce a few months ago. And so between those tools, those are our most fundamental ways of kind of managing that sales process. We also use Shopify to run our website, and that's been super, pretty easy to work with. And it's a good works for us.
Where can people get it? So you can get it on your website. Jacobsen Salt is JACOBSEN salt.com. Where else can they get it?
Yeah, they can get it on our website. They can get it from William-Sonoma stores, and then from about 1,800 different specialty shops around the country. So anywhere from De Laurenti in Seattle, Washington, to which is down near Pike Place Market, to Farm Shop LA and Farm Shop or in LA, which is this great kitchen store, kitchen and market, to Dean and DeLuca around the country, to Italy in New York City and Chicago, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago, Italy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And then all sorts of great chefs use our salts on their in their cooking, which is, so if you're going out to a great restaurant, there's a chance that they might be using our salt, which is exciting.
What was is there anyone in particular, any restaurant that started using it that you were particularly excited about? Any chef or restaurant?
Yeah. There was, to me, it's the kind of our local heroes. The chefs that are based here in Portland were the first chefs I ever met, and the first chefs I started working with. And to me, that was just incredibly humbling, because I would go into these people's restaurants before I started this company, not knowing anything about food or how it came to be. And here I was walking in the back door of these restaurants, delivering on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday morning type of thing. And to me, that was just really humbling to be a part of that behind the scenes process of how, great food gets made. And then, of course, you work with, really well-known chefs like April Bloomfield in New York City that uses our salt, or Michael Simon at, I think he has a restaurant in Cincinnati, to chefs all over the country. But then also, it doesn't have to be great fancy food. It can be, there's a food cart in Portland called Tight Tacos, and they use our salt to finish all of their street tacos, and it's really great food. And there's another one called Chicken and Guns, and they make rotisserie chicken and potatoes, and the chicken fat drips over the potatoes and onions, and they all cook together, and then they finish it with our salt, and it's just delicious. And so it's the folks who are winning James Beard Awards and Michelin Star Awards to the folks that are running really great food carts that deserve recognition.
That's awesome, Ben. So for places like people can't yet get it on like a Walmart.com or an Amazon.com.
We do now sell on Amazon.com.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people can get it there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can encourage anyone to go to jacobsensalt.com. They have amazing flavors. I'm going to get some black garlic salt for sure. And also you have, I was reading, I think your sister, produces honey also.
Our sister company, yeah.
Yeah, so what is...
Yeah, so we, about 2.5 years ago, we acquired Be Local, which is a small honey company. And they were, it was a very small deal, but we loved the brand and it was about to go out of business and we wanted to try and keep it in business. And so we were able to buy it and save it. And we, from there on have grown sales to a very, very large extent and made it a sustainable business. And we now employ a full-time beekeeper, and he manages 42 hives from Bend, Oregon, where Deschutes Brewery is, to Seattle, Washington, to Portland, and all over the place. And super talented beekeeper and just a really nice guy. And so, and really what it comes down to is we felt very comfortable doing this because honey, like salt, is an elemental cooking ingredient, and we think we make the best salt on the planet, and as a result, cooks and home cooks and chefs need something to sweeten their dishes with, and so it's either honey, agave nectar, or maple syrup, or sugar, that sort of thing. But honey being kind of the least processed of all sweeteners, we thought was a really good fit because salt is, core at its element, and so is honey.
So where can people find that? What's the website?
Belocal.com, and
it's
then
BEE.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then also on our website, jacobsensalt.com.
Okay. Salty and sweet.
The
ultimate salty and sweet.
Nothing goes better.
So last question, Ben. This is really fascinating. It's really those core elements, and that's when I was doing the research. It's the story behind how it's made is really remarkable. And I just want to hear about two things. Since it's Inspired Insider, I always ask, what's been a low moment, and then what's been an ultra proud high moment for you? Start off, what's been especially challenging low moment?
They seem to happen every day. But then you also get the highs too. What's been a low moment?
Because oftentimes people see, I saw, Jacobsen Salt in William-Sonoma, Whole Foods, and like people don't know it took, 4 years for you to even talk to the person or get into one of these places. It took a lot of grit and hard work, and so I always like to highlight one of those tough times.
We had a tough moment for us for me trying to grow the business while keeping current customers satisfied, but then also we had an issue with a former employee that had taken money from the company, and that was very, very difficult to deal with, both personally, just knowing that somebody had betrayed you like that, but also from a financial and cash flow perspective, trying to keep the boat afloat, and that was a very, very, very difficult time.
Yeah, it's like I haven't paid myself in 3 years, and someone is taking money from the company.
Yeah, exactly. So that's. But we're beyond that now for sure. But that was most definitely a very difficult moment or period of time. And then honestly, like, the best moments for me are somebody that tries our salt for the first time, or tries our salt, tastes our salt on a daily basis, and for me to see the reaction of them tasting great salt for the first time and knowing how transformative that can be, And it sounds silly probably to folks who haven't tried great salt before, but it truly is the most effective way to elevate every bite of food is using great salt. And you can spend $25 on a bottle of wine, and that'll be gone in an hour. Or you can spend $10 on a package of good salt, and that'll last you for months. And if you care about the food that you use, or even if you don't, try using great salt, and you will be amazed by how it transforms your eating experience.
Yeah. What about a proud milestone? And actually, I mean, William-Sonoma is probably a big one. What's another big one that you, just your sheer grit brought you to with not sleeping and
being able to afford health insurance for all of our employees? I'm still proud of that, and that's been a couple of years now. But it's being able to do that just makes me super proud, and we're never going back on that as a company. So, the healthier we get as a company, the more we can do for all of the whole team. So that's makes me super proud, and it's fun for me for sure.
What's next for Jacobsen Salt? What's next year? What's on the future? What's on the whiteboard?
To see. Growing out our online sales is important for us on our website, and then growing out our retail presence here in Portland and then on the coast. And then, we've got a ton of different, fun plans, but ultimately I want our salt to be made available to Americans across the country because I believe it's that good, and I believe that that Americans deserve a better salt.
Yeah. Ben, I want to be the first one to thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone should check out Jacobsen with an E, salt.com. And, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.